all very welcome. I'm not sure if I see a lot of new faces, so I'm not sure how much you know about Openhand or Open. We have a website that you can connect to us through, and Open himself is a higher dimensional bridge who's come here to share very key perspectives on what is happening now and the shift to 5D. So a number of years ago, I've known Open since, well, pretty much since he arrived here. He arrived by way of a soul exchange. And a number of years ago, back in 2012, I recall going for a long walk at midnight on the winter solstice, and we were shown an experiential display in the night through lights and other synchronicities. We were shown the birthing of Gaia into the 5D. It was an extraordinary night. It lasted about 4.5 hours, our walk. And I really feel, for me personally, everything that's transpired since then has been the sequel to that moment. And that's why it says a 5D ascension is now. It's not tomorrow, next week, it's now. Some woolly time in the future, it's now. We need to get on board with that and join with that now. And 1111, it's a key synchronicity that everyone's really familiar with. But do we really feel like we know what it means? That's the question. So, Open will give us his perspective on what 1111 means, and enjoy.
Thank you for coming. Fantastic, brilliant. We have missed this, have we not? 2 years of absolute craziness has swept the planet. Wow. I remember being here a couple of years ago giving a presentation, and who would have thought just a few weeks later that we would be in lockdown? Actually, for me, when it happened, it was no surprise. It was no surprise. It was, oh yeah, I can see what's going on here. I was in the Palmer just before it happened with a group. The Palmer, a very interesting synchronicity. If you know what's going on there right now, the volcano kicking off, which I'll share a perspective on tonight as well. But I was in the Palmer running retreat, and it was going so tremendously well. You could feel the shifts of consciousness happening. And when I came back, it was like, oh, okay, so now there's a lockdown. Yeah, it was no coincidence. It was absolutely no coincidence, because it's our awakening, it's the shift, it's the movement of energy which is driving all of this, including the reaction of the shadow state, including that. They are not in the driving seat. They are not in the driving seat. They may appear to be in one layer of reality, but only one layer. They are not in the driving seat. They are reacting. And I'd like to share a perspective on that, on why, and why this has unfolded, what their agenda is, what they're trying to do, but what the shift is really all about. But tonight, I would like to achieve two things. One, above all else, an energetic connection. Because the energies coming into the planet right now are extraordinary. I'm standing here and my body is shaking. It's not with nerves. I don't really get nervous for this kind of thing, but my legs are literally shaking. I was sitting there and there's so much energy coming in. Different groups, different extraterrestrial groups are wanting to connect with us at this time. Hey, this is Glastonbury. You know what I'm talking about? Okay? I can say these things, right? I can say these things that get laughed off, laughed at, right? But I want to share some perspectives on who is actually connecting and how. Most importantly, how. So what if the Arcturians are connecting with us, or the Andromedans? So what? What does that mean? How can you work with that energy in a grounded way? So I want to share energy more than anything else. But there's a second objective. And the objective is this, the second one. Until he alluded to it. We must, above all else, realize each individual what our orientation in life now is. What do I mean? You cannot sleepwalk forwards anymore. We are not going back to normal. The shadow state has its agenda on where it wants to take things and where it's driving things. Yes. First it's the pandemonium, I call it the pandemonium. Secondly, now it's about climate change. Let's look at what climate change and climate crisis is really all about. That's another donkey and carrot kind of game going on. I'm sure everybody in here is well aware of that. So there's various agendas that they have, but there's such tremendous energy moving too. Now the crucial thing is there's so much distraction externally, right? One drama after another. One drama after another, right? Not just in the mainstream, also the spiritual mainstream and the alternative community. Now, I think everyone's doing a great job, but there's too much focus on the shadow and on what the 3D is doing and what they're up to. Too much focus. It brings your vibration down. It identifies you with that consciousness. See it, yes. But where is your orientation? Where is this going? Where do you get your information from? Because you can't get it from them, the BBC or the Guardian or anything else, can you? You can't get it from there. So where do you get your information from? What informs you now? What becomes real for you now? What is the landscape you are traveling in? And I'd like at least to ask and pose those questions. Not to give you an answer, because only you can decide and inform that for yourself. The great thing, I'm really so actually happy that the last 2 years has happened. Why? Because it's bloody visible now, right? Everything we've known about, anyone who's been inquiring for years, it's there in your face, right? The beast is visible for those who are looking. It's there. And so now you have a choice. How do you respond to it? How do you respond? So I'm happy it happened, because it's been revealed to us exactly what is controlling and shaping society. And where is the emergence? How can we respond? How can awakened and awakening people respond? So I have those two objectives tonight. I'm going to be sharing perspective. I incarnated in 202, it began during a car crash, a soul exchange. When I came in, I saw spectacular visions of what the planet is coming to. And all of it is coming true. I come from the benevolent mission in the ether, those who are gathering to support humanity through the shift now. That's where I come from. It took me a while to understand and integrate it in this form. However, even though I say that, even though I claim that, even though it's true for me, it doesn't matter in the sense that it has to be what's real for you. And that's the other great thing that's come from this shift, this event of the last couple of years is that people are rediscovering the importance of sovereignty. Sovereignty of choice, sovereignty of beingness, sovereignty of soul. That's utterly crucial. You cannot ascend into 5D because you go to a seminar. You cannot go because you hear a whistle blowing. Right? You have to do the inner work. You have to do the inner work. I was stood in that hall at 2012 after the galactic alignment, saying, after everyone had expected, or the story was that 2012 would be the pole shift, and we'd all be in 5D, flash, bang, there we were. Thank God, I was saying, thank God it didn't happen, because we've got to do the inner work. That's the only way we get there. And anybody who's on the journey knows it's painstaking work. It's graft. It's peeling off 4D karmic layer after layer after layer. It's not, a game of roses and all light. It's not that. It's digging deep into the nitty-gritty, into relationships, into how you live and work. Every single thing. It's being the observer of yourself 24/7 to realize who you are, what's aligned soul, and what is distortion, and how you can peel it off. Because you know what? You might be sitting there thinking, oh shit, Jesus, man, is it 24/7? Yeah, but you know what? There's nothing else going on. There's nothing else going on. That's the only game in town. It's the only thing that's real. It's the game of self-realization. It just got very real. It just got very real. So we've been done immense favor to reclaim sovereignty, to reclaim orientation, to align with your soul, and follow the shift. What is the shift? Let's look at it. And what's involved? What is the landscape at this time? Some crucial things have happened. Some things are happening. You guys, I'm sure you're aware of so many things that are going on. I believe I will share a few perspectives that maybe you're not aware of. Certainly perspectives that are not being spoken of in the spiritual mainstream nor the alternative media. So I share these perspectives with you. It's not research. I live it and share it from the field. Let's see how it goes. I want to talk in 5 key areas. What I call the pandemonium key. There's a crucial key which is being misunderstood and not being explored or expressed. A crucial key to all of this. I'm not going to have everyone wait till the end to share it. I'm going to share it in a moment. It's the most important thing that I think I could be sharing right now. I'm going to share some difficult, challenging subjects. What is the harvest? No one's talking about it. At least I'm not hearing anyone talking about it. But the harvest, that's prevalent across the cosmos. Yeah, it's what's going on now. I'm going to share what I believe that to be. The crucial thing is, when we hit these difficult, uncomfortable topics, is that we equalize with it by allowing ourselves to consider it. When you allow yourself to consider the difficult, challenging stuff, you become equal with it. It doesn't frighten you anymore. It doesn't scare you. You're at one with it. Now you can deal with it. Now you can work with it. We're going to look at what the harvest is. We're going to look at what the meaning of 1111 is, from my perspective, and the event. What is the event all about? The solar nova, the solar micronova. What is that about? Because again, to my mind, a lot of misinformation, distortion is being shared about what that is. We don't just suddenly raise vibration to 5D and it's all done. So we'll look at that. We'll look at what that is. We'll look at the Merkabah and Maya Samadhi. Maya Samadhi. The ancients have called it Maha Samadhi. It's effectively leaving the body at will when you're ready, as Paramahansa Yogananda did. We'll look at what that is. Why is that applicable? Why is it important now, or becoming important? And I want to look at the galactic family of light. What is that? That there is this family in the ether from different constellations, and we have this tremendous possibility to become a part of it. That's what this is all about. What does that actually mean? What does that actually mean? What does it mean for us? So I'd like to look at that too, because they're drawing very close right now. So let's look at what these things are. The Pandemonium Key. Lockdown was a response to a wide awakening of consciousness. That was the response. That was the reaction of the shadow state. In 2012, we had this great rebirth of Gaia. We were up on Wiriel Hill. We were shown very clearly what that was all about. That her center of consciousness had shifted into the 5D. Still here, we're still here in 3D, but her center of consciousness had shifted into 5D. And a lot of people were expecting a major change to happen on that day. Well, it did, it just wasn't necessarily visible. And a lot of people expected the pole shift to complete on that day. That was very unrealistic. The pole shift is converging, yes. It is moving quickly, yes. We probably have a 30-year window before it completes. And when it does complete, it's going to have a massive impact on the planet. We'll talk about what that is. So if you think back to 2012, the galactic alignment, and how much has changed on the planet since then, how much of an awakening, how much has changed with Gaia, and also what's happening in society. It's astronomical what's changed since then. So even though it didn't all flip on one day, there was a radical shift of gears at that point. And to me, the real key to what's gone on these last 2 years is this, and no one's talking about it, or very little. The 5D shift is in the driving seat, not the cult, not the shadow state. That's what they want you to think. They want to create the stories that pull you into it, that either you disagree with it or you fight it. But either way, you're identifying with it. That's what they want. That's what they want. But the 5D shift is in the driving seat. As I'm going to show you in a minute or two, nothing and no one is going to stop it. You're either with it or not. It's as simple as that. The shift is in the driving seat, not the shadow state. So we can give up the whole victim mentality, woe is me, because of what's happened. No. If you're with the shift, and you're feeling and you're moving with the consciousness of the shift, it's astronomical. So much is changing, so much is coming alive, just as the lockdown happened, or shortly afterwards. So the 5D crystalline grid became active, because you don't get one without the other. If the shadow side makes a movement, benevolence responds, or vice versa, or you get the reaction to the shift. So the 5D crystalline grid is the construct, the light construct upon which the new paradigm is being built or will be formed. And that came active a few months after the lockdown. Anyone who's tuning in could feel it. You can download energy from the galactic core. You can download energy from the sun. And that's the essence of the 5D crystalline grid. So the shift is driving it, not the shadow state. And for me, there's too much focus on what the shadow state is doing. I remember cycling up Mount Snowdon once, a weird thing to do, I know. A lot of fun at the time, actually. And we had to carry the bikes quite a way up the mountain, as you can imagine, which was really tremendous energy, being up on the peak and everything. But the real challenge was coming down afterwards. And I was with someone, she was a very skilled mountain biker. I was really a beginner, right? Every 10 yards or so, I'm hitting a boulder and I fall off. Get up again, cycle down, hit a boulder, fall off. After about 20 minutes, half an hour, she comes back to me and she gives me this immortal piece of advice. Immortal. And I'm going to share it with you now. Notice the boulders, but focus on the path between them. Notice the boulders, but focus on the path between them. I didn't fall off after that. It's simple. It's a simple change of focus. Yes, we're not ignoring what's going on, but it's not defining our journey either. If we choose to orientate ourselves with the movement of energy, that is the path. That is the shift. So that, to me, if we take away one piece of, realization or information tonight, it is this. And to then question, well, how is my orientation now with response to that? If the shift is driving it all, how am I connecting to that? What is my connection to it? That, to me, is not being spoken of enough, if at all. I just see the focus on the shadow side. And it's pulling people in. What is the shadow state agenda? This is where it gets a bit heavy, okay? But we need to be aware of what is going on. Because illumination and awareness is what enables us to equalize with it, normalize with it, lose any fear of it, and then dissolve it from our consciousness. We're not affected by it anymore. But let's be clear what's going on so we understand it. Because, again, I don't hear too much people talking about who are the real instigators of what's gone on. Who are the real instigators of this? Who's orchestrating it all? Homo sapiens is a hybrid species. How can I say that with confidence? I mean genetically hybridized. How can I say it with confidence? You have, all of Homo sapiens has 46 chromosomes. What are chromosomes? If you imagine the tree of life as a metaphor, and the leaves representing the genes, then the twigs represent the chromosomes upon which the leaves, the genes are hung, right? So the chromosomes hold the genes. You have 46. All Homo sapiens has 46. 23 pairs. 23 from your father, 23 from your mother. And we supposedly naturally evolved from the hominids. There's just one big problem with that. They all have 48 chromosomes. How do we get from 48 to 46? You don't have any humans with 47, by the way. You only have all humans with 46. Because the second and the third chromosome on the maternal and the paternal lineage lines have been joined. This offers no evolutionary advantage. In fact, it's an evolutionary disadvantage because it leads to birth challenges and problems and genetic disorder. Not only that, but this is not one-step change. Of course, Darwin's theory is all about if there's some kind of change, some mutation that favors a particular development or evolution, then that would go forth, that would propagate. Okay? But it's one mutation, single-step changes. To change 48 to 46 chromosomes is probably a dozen changes. Because at the ends of the chromosomes you have something called telomeres. They're little hooks that have to be unhooked and rehooked together. It's probably a dozen changes, simultaneous. But not just simultaneous in one being, two beings, a female and a male, at the same place and same time. It must have happened to these two beings at the same place and same time. These dozen or so changes for it to happen, for all Homo sapiens to have 46 chromosomes. It could have happened no other way. You don't get humans with 47, for example. There was no interbreeding. Suddenly, Homo sapiens appears on the scene with 46 chromosomes. The likelihood is, the mathematical odds of that happening by chance, a guy called, a great researcher called Lloyd Pye, he likened it to the odds of a tornado ripping through a scrap heap and forming a 747 airline jet. Those are the odds of it happening by chance. And yet that's the accepted science that we're supposed to believe. It didn't happen by chance. It was engineered. It was engineered. Why? Because various hybridizations had been made and they wanted to create speciation from the original human species. They wanted to create speciation. They wanted to separate them from the original humans. Why? Because they didn't want to interbreed. Why? Because they'd installed various genetic downgrades from the original humans. They stripped out, for example, our multidimensionality by changing the DNA. That's what they did. Who's they? We'll get on to that in a minute. How do they do it? Where's the technology? Sound, laser light, or viruses. That's how you change DNA. Sound can change DNA. You have Russian scientists at the moment who can change the DNA of a frog to a salamander by firing laser at it, laser light at it, at the zygote. That's what they're able to do now. So the technology has been there. It can be projected from the ether, sound and light. And viruses, well, we all know about those. So these are three techniques that are used to change genetics. It was definitely possible to do. Who did it? Who did it? I had an interesting sequence of experiences leading up to the 2012 galactic convergence. I experienced being a part of a team, an interdimensional team that worked with the Anunnaki. They were embodied, or at least the leadership was embodied in this place, on this planet at the time. And I engaged with them. And as a part of that team, we regressed them back to where they came from and why had they instigated this humongous hybridization, this downgrading. Why had they done it? And they went all the way back to Sirius, and the shift of Sirius 120 million years ago, when it went through a white dwarf ascension, exploded, obliterated the civilization of which they were the elites, effectively cast out from that transformation, cast into space. The civilization was obliterated. Many souls have brought that karma to the planet at this time now. What the transformation, the breakdown of reality is really like. They brought it to this planet. I encountered time and time and time again in meditation work, people regressing to those times and recalling the experiences they had there and reliving it now. And the Anunnaki leadership said that they felt they had been abandoned by God. That was what their terminology. Messengers had gone to tell them of the transformation happening, but either the messages were misunderstood, misinterpreted, or misapplied, because it didn't support or help the shift at that time. Civilization was obliterated, and they felt abandoned by God. And that was what their leadership expressed. And as they expressed it, it was phenomenal to watch, to be a part of, to see, to witness, to see these beings breaking down in front of you, sobbing about what had happened to them and why they did what they did when they came here. And their goal, their aim, was to reshape the civilization that they had lost. That's what they came here to do. Hence the hybridization. Hence the transformation of this vehicle. The interruption of the DNA. Why? What is DNA? DNA is a receiver transmitter of soul frequency. A receiver transmitter of soul frequency. If you interrupt the DNA, you can put through whatever frequencies you desire to do. And that's what they did. They could then put through different frequencies. So the being is picking up frequencies that are not its own. People are talking about disclosure. People are talking about ETs being around and appearing, and everybody's looking out there, waiting for them to arrive. They're looking in the wrong bloody place, because they're in here and they never went away. They're coming in on these frequencies. They're coming in on your own soul, on your own biological frequencies, the frequencies of consumption, the frequencies of emotion, of control with the mind. They're coming through on those frequencies. And you don't know it's happening until you challenge the impulses that are coming through your being. So I incarnate as a soul exchange, I stay connected to the higher dimensions, and I'm starting to see some extraordinary things. I'm seeing shadows jumping from people to people, person to person, exacerbating their energy field, extracting energy and moving on. This is what I'm seeing. And as I work to follow the soul, I'm feeling all these impulses coming through me that I know aren't mine. Maybe because I was aware of the higher dimensional connection still. Now here's the point. If you're still plugged into society, if you're still making unconscious choices, if you're still going with the matrix, you won't spot that. You just respond according to the impulses. It's only when you make a moment-by-moment conscious choice to follow the soul that you get these different influences. And you wonder what on earth is going on. And then you interrupt the intervention frequencies coming in, and you follow the soul. You bring the soul in, and you start to realign your DNA, because as the soul comes in, it strips out the old convoluted DNA, the intervention DNA. But no one wants to hear that it's in here. I was interviewed by a huge ufology site. And they said, look, we'd like your opinion. I said, you're looking in the wrong place. Don't look out here, look in here. I spoke for 45 minutes, they were silent throughout. I didn't hear a word afterwards. They didn't even publish the interview. Because they're waiting for these craft to come. Yeah, they may come, but they never went away. They're here in the ether all around us. I remember somebody said to me once in a workshop, he said, look, I've heard about these entities, and I've heard about these implants. Can you calm my nerves? I said, yeah, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Get over it. Get used to it. Equalize with it. This is a hybrid vehicle designed to receive those frequencies. Everyone. That was the intervention. That was the intervention. And it's not until you work to realign it that you eject that intervention. Now back in 2012, the team regressed the Anunnaki and stripped them. They withdrew from the intervention. They ascended, sort of ascended, more 4D. But they left, and from that point was a rapid opening up in the field. And even the reptilian energies, even the reptilians started to realign as well. Another action by the team was to take out the Omega, the Queen, was to remove the Queen. And then the coherency of the reptilian energy started to break down. Now this is also crucial because you have well-known alternative speakers who are demonizing these beings. If we demonize them, what does that do? Creates us and them, polarity, fight and flight, persistence of this intervention dynamic. They are wanting to realign. I can feel the fight, flight, anxiety in them because they know what is coming. They know what is coming. They know the shift is coming. And they know they don't belong here. And they're ready to realign. And they are realigning. So the reptilians are starting to move on. Okay, unconditional love, yes, but from a position of strength. Strength, not weakness. You know, if you feel them and perceive them, I've been in a hive of reptilian energies around a crop circle in Avebury. And it took over my body, over my mind. It was projecting imagery into my mind. You see what it wants you to see. 12-foot crocodile? Yes, if that's what it wants you to see. It's an energy. That's all it is. A disembodied energy. But now people are in fear because they're seeing 12-foot crocodiles. No, it's just an energy. It gets into the consciousness, it gets into the mind, and it projects images it wants you to see, so it controls you with fear. And if you don't go into fear, it can't control you. In me, it was projecting the imagery. I was camping, I was guided, thanks team, I was guided to camp in this hive this particular night. I was lying down there, and I'm seeing, all of a sudden, this combine harvester with lights coming towards me at night, because they were harvesting the fields away, and suddenly I can't move the body. And I'm lying there, this combine harvester's coming towards me, and I'm thinking, shit, I'm going to die. I'm going to get chewed up. Right? Now I know for sure, when you're faced with those kinds of circumstances, you can do one of two things: fear and flat mode, or surrender. Or surrender. You can't control it, so surrender. If you surrender, you lose the fear. If there's some element of unconsciousness, it goes because you lose the fear. And as you lose the fear, you infuse through that area of unconsciousness. Fear, judgment, it extracts you from the thing you're afraid of or judging. It creates polarity. You are no longer the one. And therefore you can be controlled by it. But if you surrender into it and through it, it can't control you. And the moment I surrendered, zap, the images disappeared. And the hive disappeared. I was able to channel it out, channel it away. There is nothing to fear but our fear itself. And some alternatives will doing a great job, but they're also perpetuating the story, the limiting story. Again, seemingly no one wants to hear it. I'm perplexed. More people are hearing it, fortunately. So the reptilians are moving on, or they're being helped. They're being helped by their ancestors, the Draconians, who are here in the ether helping them reclaim them, to take them back. You've got that going on. But what we're left with are the greys, the black snake, which is the satanic energies, and I call it black snake because it's an ancient energy, primordial energy from the earth that's got misaligned and taken over what people would call the satanic circles. But it's still an energy in the field. And it's working with the greys and AI, and in my knowing, they are the instigators of the pandemonium, the pandemic. So even though the original intervention instigators, the Anunnaki, have gone, and the reptilians are realigning, they're still here. They're still here. You've got that energy in the field which is instigating all of this. And it is also being challenged right now by plenty of people waking up, challenging around the world, but also from the ether. The greys can be realigned. They are harvested beings. In other words, the soul is taken out and put into a synthetic vehicle. That's what the greys are. And that's what the harvest is. That's what the virus pandemonium is all about. It's about harvesting souls. It's about interrupting these frequencies. It's about interrupting them So other frequencies can come in, and the soul is effectively pushed out. The matrix, the film, is such an accurate representation of what is actually going on now. The soul is effectively acting as a battery, disconnected from this, mostly, and then the intervention energies come in, and they then pushed, sucked into a synthetic AI augmented reality. That's where it's going. That's where it's going. Based on high tech, based on virology, the whole 9 yards. This is what we're seeing Facebook doing with Meta, for example. Virtual realities. But you know, people are getting sucked in by it all. I'm on a plane going to Australia. I think it was Australia before the lockdown. I'm sitting next to this young lady. She's got a phone in her hand, right? Most of the flight. It's a long flight, right? And the screen was off. She's still got it in her hand. She's looking out the window at times, and I'm watching her because I'm intrigued. She's looking out the window. At times she's even tapping the screen, and it's off. How much do you see that going on? This is a substitute. A substitute for what? Inner completion. This text comes in, message, phone call. What does it do? The idea is it completes you. Gives you that kind of dopamine hit of being loved, of being cared for. It's in here, right? You all know that. But people are being sucked in with it. And then it slowly becomes a part of people's consciousness, their reality, the virtual reality, the social media. And all of a sudden you've got, Meta. And where is it going? Where is it going ultimately? And this is something we really need to understand as well. This is another important thing. It's going off-world. It's going to take people off-world. And now maybe one or two people are going, come on, Open, you're getting a bit, you're going a bit out there now, right? On New Year's Eve, before the pandemonium began, 2020, NASA were doing this huge broadcasting advertisement campaign about going to the moon and then to Mars. Massive advertising campaign. It's huge. They have, the billionaires now either have underground bunkers or rocket launch pads. They're going off-world. Why? Because they know what is coming. They know what is coming, and that's why they also instigated this. That's why they accelerated things, because they know what is coming. What is coming? Something called the galactic superwave, leading to a solar micronova, leading to Earth pole shift, leading to complete breakdown of the 3D, 4D construct, leading to the completion of the 5D, the new 5D construct. That's what's coming. And I want to share, this is what I saw in the car crash. This is what I came in with. But what I'd like to do is share some of the science and the evidence that supports this. And also why I know they know this. Because there's clear evidence of that too. And it's about time we knew it. It's about time it became part of our landscape, because this is what they're hiding from everyone. They're controlling people because they don't want them to know about this. They don't want them daring to break free, because you know what? You've got nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose because it's all going. And when you know that, first it becomes a bit scary. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Fear is okay, providing you work with it, because fear is a gateway. No one is ascending with fear, but fear is the gateway through which to transition. And when you're able to confront your fear, then you have nothing to lose, nothing to fear, everything to gain. That's what they don't want you having. Everything to gain. It's time we took back that awareness. You know, we have this awareness. People can remember what happened when they regress. People can remember what happened at Atlantis, whatever that was 12,000 years ago, there's very clear evidence that something happened 12,000 years ago. And I'm going to share that in a moment too. People have regressions into that. And what took place? A great cleansing. People have memories of a past life. And you know what? They're also still here. Doesn't that also tell us something? That it's nothing to fear, but a great transformation and growth process. And knowing that it's coming is the tremendous motivation for that change to happen, for the commitment to happen. So I want to show you a film. It's a film I made on beach down in southern England, or Devon, I think it was, a couple of years ago. Show you a little film that contains some information about the galactic superwave.
So what is the 1111 synchronicity all about? How might it be that what people are experiencing might not only relate to our changes, but those on planet Earth, the solar system, and galaxy too? And what is it telling us about our evolution, our pathway, and how we need to apply ourselves now? Who are we in the grand scheme of things? What is our greater role in the grand cosmic picture? And how can we live that right here, right now? So what is the 1111 synchronicity that people are seeing all around the world? Clearly it's a wake-up call because it's inspiring many people to connect with the soul and begin the spiritual journey. But is there something more to it than that? I most definitely think there is. I think it's inviting the connection of 4 key centers of consciousness. Our soul, our connection with Gaia, our deeper connection with the solar logos, and further afield still, the galactic core. How are these all interrelated, and how are they influencing our lives right now? It's crucial to understand this because it's going to change our whole perspective on how we live our lives on the day-to-day.
What are you waiting for? Butterflies?
I'm waiting for a clear space. And then I'm shooting a video.
Brilliant.
About galactic superwaves.
Wow.
Yeah. How they impact the galaxy and the solar system.
Wow.
And how we're already probably experiencing that already. And they come in cycles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, on this beach?
Probably on this beach.
Even on this
But
beach.
even on this beach, yeah.
I don't see many waves on this beach though.
Well, there's a few.
Not those waves though.
Not that kind of wave. But when it does, you'll know it.
Will I?
Yeah. So extensive research has been done by the astrophysicist Paul Laviolette, who over a 30-year period examined cosmic dust sediment in the Antarctic and Greenland ice sheets. And they reveal a cycle every 5,700 years, 11,500 years, and 26,000 years, where we receive these incredible pulses from the galactic core. And these in turn can inspire a solar micronova, where the sun's field, the magnetosphere, is compacted by dust, which agitates it, which then explodes and impacts the whole of the solar system. There are people plenty around us who believe that's what the myth of the sinking of Atlantis was really all about at the end of the last ice age. You can see how some kind of impact from space, from the solar system, impacted the Earth and extended the last ice age by around about 1,000 years. But you can also see how it came to a sudden, abrupt end, a very rapid warming. And this could all be a part of a galactic superwave. It devastated the civilization of the time. And you get this in the mythologies, but you can also see it in some of the structures, the ancient structures, like the pyramids, some of which appear to have exploded from the inside by some tremendous heat impact, which literally blown the granite cover off. You see the devastation of society. You see how then progressively society has rebuilt itself. And these have gone in cycles through history. And there are many who believe that we are overdue a galactic superwave right now. In fact, when you look at the solar system and the changes happening on all the other planets, when you consider the Earth with the accelerating pole shift, radically changing weather patterns and greatly increased earthquake and volcanic activity, then it's clear a powerful transformation has already begun. It feels to me like waves are building and gathering toward us. I can feel it in the consciousness space when I tune into the galactic core. I can feel the destabilization effect. There's a strong coherence which is pulling consciousness toward it. Why would that be if a wave is coming outwards from the core? Well, consider how the wave comes up on the beach. As it does so, it's pulling water into it before the disturbance washes over onto the beach itself. And so we'll be able to feel, if we're tuned in, we'll be able to feel the pull, the interconnection of the next superwave. I believe in my heart of hearts we can already sense and feel that if we tune in. It's a strong coherence. It causes, you can see it in society, it's causing an agitation, a degree of anxiety, because people are living divorced from the big picture, from the macrocosm, from the big movement. So to me, the 1111 synchronicity is pointing toward the interconnection of these four centers and the importance, the relevance of paying attention to this movement, this grand unraveling in our lives. So how can we best ride these waves in day-to-day life? How can we best ride the shift that's influencing all of us, whether we know it or not? First is to recognize the impulse that animates the soul and wants to bring it alive, and to honor the sense of that, to feel it, to move with it. That's crucial. It's crucial that we start to move with that, because it's going to shape and change our lives in a way which we could not possibly predict. But then also, it's about recognizing that as the wave animates the soul, it's going to agitate repressed density, karmic source pain, if you like. It's going to bring all that to the surface. That's going to create tightness, pain, discomfort, and take us into the shadow side. And it's really important then that we work into our behaviorisms, in our relationships, in our general living circumstances. It's important that we work into those, peel off the density by realigning soul. So you express the density. That makes you as one with it. You then blow up into your awareness the distortions, the attachments that you would have had in those particular circumstances. So you animate those, you let them express, and then you let go of the attachment now that you're witnessing. That's crucial. That'll bring you more into the abode of the one, and the flow itself, as interconnected with the galactic core, will flow through you more readily, more easily, and it'll shape synchronistic situations and circumstances that we're being guided to follow. So in summary, that's really crucial to learn to follow it. It's going to put you in the right situation at the right timing to experience exactly what you need to experience. It's crucial to say you're not going to ascend unless you've done the inner work. Raising your vibration really means integrating soul in the lower densities, processing karma, and activating the higher bodily vehicles of expression, like the spirit light body, for example, which becomes your vehicle of ascension. I find it useful to consider the metaphor of the Apollo rocket, where you have a particular stage, the physical, which gets you into the outer reaches of the atmosphere, the 3D. And then you have another part of the rocket which takes you through your karma, through the 4D space, and processing that, before finally landing at your destination in another vehicle, the spirit light body, which synchronistically was called the eagle. The point being that when the shift concludes and the physical falls away, you continue on in the new paradigm, in the spirit light body. You could say the proverbial eagle has landed. And the synchronicities are going to speak loud and clear to us then. And that is crucial, a crucial part of following the flow. If we tune into it, if we start to let it come through us, it's going to animate our being, it's going to bring us alive, it's going to take us out of the minutiae of all of the crap that we've been involved in and show us that we're a part of something much bigger, much grander, and that we are that. When we cease to be this separated identity, we are that. We become that. And then death, it has no meaning anymore, because you know yourself at a soul level as a part of the flow, as the flow. You know you can't die. You know you're going to continue. And that this great movement by the universe, by our galaxy, is what life is really all about here. We are all a part of that. We are all interconnected with that. There is no separation. And therefore, let's learn to embrace the movement, learn to embrace the shift in a moment-by-moment basis in our day-to-day living circumstances, how we work, in our relationships. If we can recognize the impact, the impulse, the animation of soul, we're going to be able to ride those waves and break through fear, and it'll bring us alive as the cosmic beings that we are.
Fill the sky with love. Fill the sky with love. Fill the sky with love, with love, with love forever. Fill the sky with love. Fill the sky with love. Fill the sky with love, with love, with love forever.
That to me is the wonderful opportunity of tuning into this next big wave that's gathering all around us and being a part of it. I wish you well in the flow. Namaste. As I'm recording this, the tide is coming in. So I'm having to grab my gear because otherwise I'm going to get trashed by the wave. Perhaps that's an important synchronicity.
There's a couple of key things I want to take from that. First of all, the wave itself and the evidence that it's happening and how do we respond. The wave itself then. NASA scientists have already recorded light emerging from a flash of light emerging from Sagittarius A in the galactic core. It's already been recorded. The cycles are around 12,000 years. The last one was 12,000 years ago. It is on the way. The energy, the atmosphere of all the planets is changing. If you explore that, they're all changing because the energy is arriving now. It's arriving at a time when the grand solar minimum is happening, meaning that the sun is lowering its magnetic shield of the solar system. More cosmic dust is coming in. It's happening at that time. It's happening as the pole shift is completing. In 2013, I paid a trip to Hopi Lands to see the prophecy stone. Incredible, incredible experience. The energy of that place is extraordinary. And they show on the stone, I was shown by a Hopi elder, the two diverging pathways for humanity. One going off into the 4D, the technological new state, and it goes off a cliff. And the other one is Ascension. This is what he showed me on the stone. That night, he also told me there are 9 key signs that predict what they call the Great Purification coming to the planet. 8 signs have already happened. The 9th is what they call return of the blue star Kachina. And no one really understood what it meant. They thought it was Skylab falling to the Earth in the 1970s. The galactic superwave will look blue when it arrives. This, in my knowing, is the blue star Kachina. When it arrives, it takes the sun into, it blankets the sun with dust, cosmic dust, for 3 days. The ancients have also spoken of 3 days of darkness. Don't you notice how interestingly how the shadow state tries to debunk all of these by spinning the truth and then distorting it? Who heard about the 3 days of darkness over Easter that was supposed to happen? Was that in 2020? Did you hear about that? Various whistleblowers were telling us that was going to happen. Yeah, you heard about that? Yeah. Again, to debunk the 3 days of darkness, as they try to debunk the pole shift with the film 2012 and others. So what they do is they build people up to it, and then when it's gone, we kind of think, oh, that's done. 3 days of darkness was known by the ancients because they've seen these things happening before. They have recorded hieroglyphs in cave etchings that show the exact format of the sun when it goes into a micronova, what it looks like, what the form is like. They did it to hand down the awareness, the knowledge, further down the chain to us. 12,000 years was the end of Atlantis, 12,000 years ago. The ice sheet melted because of a blast. In 3 days it melted. Deluges of waves swept around the planet. That happened 12,000 years ago. Right now the climate is changing radically. It's very, very little to do with man-made fossil fuel emissions. We have solar forcing during the grand solar minimum, which is firing charged particles into the ionosphere, which is cascading into the magnetosphere. It's coming into the jet streams. It's causing storms all around the planet that we're seeing now. It's causing the activation of the volcanoes. The pole shift is causing the activation of the volcanoes, which we're seeing on the island, for example, of La Palma. I lived there for a year. The story of La Palma is a fascinating story because it's a snapshot for all of us. La Palma was inhabited by originals called the Ganche. They lived at one with the island. They lived off the fruit of the island. They used to travel with pole vaults. They used to pole vault over the rock. These carried poles with them. That is until the Spanish conquistadors showed up and subjugated them, deceived the king, and marginalized them out. Took over the island, brought the reptilian consciousness with them, started growing the banana plantations, and then infused the island with toxin and poison. And when you're living there, you're sitting there on this beautiful paradise, and you're sitting there meditating, so this waft of toxin comes up off the banana plantations. Yes. And every day I tuned into Isla Bonita, the soul of the island, and she was crying. She was crying like Gaia is crying now, or has been. Everyone's going to say how terrible this is because people have been losing their homes. What about the restoration of Gaia and sentient life from this travesty which has overtaken the planet? La Palma is a keystone, is a snapshot of what is coming. And it's the activation of the stargates, for example. Another thing that's happening, so the benevolence in the field are taking some of the 4D alien technology out of the stargates, and so they're accelerating, the energy is moving quicker. This was the story of the crop circles from the summer. If you check them out, we work with a group in Avebury. They will all seem to be speaking of the stargates opening. It's accelerating. And so nature, Gaia, is working to come back to nature. And to me, that's what the reflection of La Palma is all about. Now, if that continues, then you have the risk of 1 billion tons of rock sliding at free fall speed into the Atlantic, which would set up tsunamis all around Europe and across to the USA. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. The fault line is already open, or has been opened, and the island's height is changing, or that aspect of it. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. These things are coming, and we need to embrace them as a part of our reality. The shadow state knows. In 1977, it classified a document called the Adam and Eve story, which contained, it's an unlikely book for them to censor and take out of circulation. Why? Because it contained a key piece of information about the pole shift. That it does indeed happen. It flips forwards and backwards very quickly. And that's why it's not necessarily recorded in the geological record. But when it does happen, you have devastation of the surface of the planet. You have 2-mile-high waves. You have storms whipping around. You have, what's coming now is the galactic trigger. During the time of the grand solar minimum, firing a solar nova. This is what I saw in the crash. I saw the Earth bathed in fire, cleansing fire. That's what I saw. I saw a future landing now. It's not prophecy. I know it's coming because we are 1 second from midnight within that shift. Less than. It was vision of future landing now. It's happening. The atmosphere is changing. The volcanoes are coming active. The pole shift is due to complete. We are very close to it. We are in a window of transformation, maybe 30 years, at the most. At the most. But that doesn't mean to say we sit around hunky-dory meditating until 30 years' time, because it's all kicking off. If you're on the Palmer now, it's bloody real for you, right? It's real. It's real now. Let's not push it off. Let's not be distracted by the shadow state agenda. Let's tune into the energy, because when you tune in to the shift, to how Gaia's moving, I know you guys do. What about how the sun is moving? What about the galactic core? What does that feel like? Because when you tune into them all, you can feel the whole thing moving. It moves through you. And you move through it. And it changes your life. It informs your reality in a different way. It shows you the signs and synchronicities, the numerology, the sacred geometry that you're weaving reality from. You know, the incredible thing that's happening right now is the old reality is unraveling. The shadow state's trying to lock it down and create the fourth industrial revolution. That's what it's doing. But the energy is moving strongly. And if we ride the quantum field as you feel it coming through you, you can create from the quantum field. You can create from that. We all know that. It's not intentional manifestation, though. Who's intending? Only the ego. It's coming from the torus. It's surrendering into the center, the core of the movement itself, the presence, and the flow happens from it. And this is what the flower of life means. If I take an apple, the universe looks like an apple, a torus with a vortex going through the middle. And if I take a slice of it, here's the vortex, and here's the layers of the apple, which is my beingness, right? And everything's moving around it. But this could also represent the earth. It could represent the sun. It could represent the galaxy with solar systems around it. That's the meaning of the flower of life. And if I sit in the torus by surrendering into presence and letting it flow around me, my life shapes in a different way. It's informed by the quantum field. I have to let go of the ego. I have to let go of what the ego desires and wants. I have to surrender to the movement and even to the intentioning that has swept across the spiritual mainstream. All that is diverting the flow itself. Come into the torus, surrender into it. You become as one with the earth, as one with the solar system, as one with the galaxy. It informs a new reality. That is the 1111 synchronicity that I understand. The four centers connecting. As these centers connect and move and shift, does that mean I am the victim of all of this? Do I have any personal say, movement, power within all of this? I certainly do. I certainly do when I become one with it. Merkabah and Maya Samadhi. When I purify the lower self, the physical body, the emotional body and relationships, you know, in the physical body, I need to cleanse it of all the toxins awash in society right now, okay? Especially from the people who've been juiced. Yes. Because you know what I'm talking about. You know about metallics in that. And the proteins. That I need to be cleansing from my body. There are ways of doing it. There are ways of doing it. Chlorella, coriander, pine needle tea. These kinds of things can help you cleanse it from your body. We need to be doing that now. It's a must. We need to be cleansing the physical body. We need to be we need to be healing the emotional trauma and also setting boundaries as well. If people choose to go that route, that's their choice. It's their choice, they're choosing it. It's not for us to control that. It's what they're choosing. I was working with a group in Avebury in the summer, a group of facilitators. And one of the people went into a regression, and they'd gone into a harvested situation. They'd gone into a collective consciousness, like people are going into now. And as she was sitting in that consciousness, that regression, I asked her, why are you there? What is the advantage that's keeping you there? She says, I don't have to make a choice. Everything is done for me. I'm looked after. I don't have to think about it. I'm thinking, man, yeah, okay. I get it. I understand it. I understand why people would choose it. Then I asked her the question, is that how you would like to govern and lead your life? Now, who's making the choices? Who's deciding? And within a couple of seconds, she'd flipped out of it. She'd broken that karma. People are choosing it. And if they're choosing it, it's their choice. Is that your choice? Is that where you want to go? That doesn't mean to say we have to try to somehow change everyone. I hear often the story of we're all going to ascend together. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Ascension happens in waves of people who've done the work. That's the point. It takes inner work, and not that many people at the moment are doing the work necessary. So, don't wait for everybody else. If they come, they come. More people are going to come when they see the energy that you're embodying. That's what will inspire them. But not us trying to persuade or hang on or pull people together. If it's their choice to go down that route, then let them go down that route. But go with what your soul is informing. Go with what you're feeling moved to do. And that's why setting effective emotional boundaries is crucial. Especially in families. Hey, I know this is really challenging. So often I hear from star soul beings who are incarnated in a family how they feel the odd one out. No one gets you, right? If I asked everybody in this room, you'd say, yeah, that's me. People don't get you. Yes, I understand it. But it's time to step out and be yourself. If not now, when? When? And even if your family around you don't get it, they have to persuade you, try to persuade you to go down that route. Why? Because if you don't, it undermines the whole charade that they've embarked upon. For every person who says, no, I'm going my route, it undermines the collective story that everyone's buying into. That's why they have to try to persuade you. You can be in your truth. You can be in your truth and still connect. If it's love, they'll still love you unconditionally. When I came out of the car crash and told my family, right, everything's changed for me, I'm a different being, every relationship exploded in my life. Everyone. After about 5 or 6 years, my biological parents finally reconnected. And they decided they couldn't understand what I was saying. They can't understand me. But they accept me as who I am. That's extraordinary. They're triple jabbed, right? They're triple jabbed. Yeah. And I have conversations with them. I try to illuminate. I try to share some of this. Okay, a lot of it would go over their head, right? I share some of this, some of it. And I get all the challenges, the arguments, the pushback. But at the end of the day, they accept me. That's unconditional love. They don't need me to follow their pathway. They don't need me to do that. And they accept me going my pathway. That's unconditional love. But to get to that, you have to be really clear. This is who I am. Come what may. If it's really love, they'll love you as you are. And the choices you make, they'll love you as you are. Not because you've had the juice or not had the juice. If that's what love depends on, it's not love. Obvious, right? Obvious. So it's the cleansing of the physical, emotional, the mental body as well. Not listening to other people's stories, or listening, but being bloody clear what is your truth. How do you know your truth when you hear something? Because you feel it. Because it lands, it resonates. And if it doesn't, let it go. So depopulate, unpollute the mind. Come, you know this, you wouldn't be in this room. Come from the core feeling sense, the subtle perceptions, the heart, the landing of knowing. Go with that, let that illuminate. Now, as you purify, you also open the higher dimensional vehicles as well. So if I flip this up, I know I'm rapidly going through this, but if I flip this up and look at it at a human sense, here we have a human sitting within the toroidal field. Sitting on it because we all have one. Except if you're in the full self, playing by the story of the matrix, then you're over here, but as you unwind that, you come back into the torus yourself. And that's connected to the earth, connected to the sun, connected to the galaxy. You can feel it all. Now, when you're coming into this and you've purified the lower self, then you start to open up the higher vehicles and you're embodying them now. The spirit light body. So it's informing you with signs and synchronicity, with sacred geometry, with numerology. All of these things. The spirit light body and the other higher vehicles are coming active, coming alive now. You're creating something the ancients called the Merkabah. It's a form where the lower and the higher self are integrated. You're in a hybrid state here and now. You're able to engage the 3D world, but also you're being informed by the higher 5D, 6D, 7D reality. This is the Merkabah. Now, when that is complete, this gives you the ultimate power to navigate this world informed by the divine, but when it's your time to leave, the soul knows. The soul knows and is able and ready to withdraw, just to let go. Come into the spirit light body and let go of the physical. Back in the summer, I think it was this summer, there was a guy in our community suffering from cancer. And I knew I got a sense, a calling, he's on the verge. Go and see him. I didn't know where he was. I followed the synchronicities. I found his ward. I found his hospital bed. He was suffering in terminal effect of cancer. And all I had to do was remind him, you have the power to decide what you do now. That's all I had to do. You have the power to decide what happens now. That's all I said. And then left. He left an hour later. Because it was right. Because it was right. I'm not talking, let me be clear, I'm not talking suicide. I'm not talking prematurely ending your journey. I'm talking that when the wave comes, in whatever form it comes, that you engage, encounter, or meet, when it comes, your soul will know. You will feel it. And if you've done the integration work, if you're ready, this vehicle, as the magnetic field lowers, it becomes more wave-like. The physical feels more wave-like. It feels more like plasma. The mind is not telling you it's solid in the way that it was. Now, people who are still plugged into the matrix, they won't notice any difference. Except they're going a bit crazy because something's changing and they don't know what. But if you're surrendering the mind, the body starts to feel like a wave of plasma. You're transcending the body. You are in the spirit light body. It's as real for you as the physical. It becomes ecstatic. Yes, ecstatic. It's not fearful. It's not terror. It's joy, liberation, ecstatic. And you know when it's time to leave. And you leave. That's Maya Samadhi. And that, in my knowing, is going to become widely known and practiced in the years ahead. And that's the ultimate empowerment of us as beings. And it leads to us joining the galactic family of light. There are beings all around us, you know, because you've come from there. You might partially suspect, you might know, you might only partially suspect, but yes, we come from the Pleiades, and Arcturus, and Andromeda, and Sirius, and Lyra. Yes, we come from those places. Yes, and we're going back. But having integrated this tremendous experience that's now unfolding before us. And we will take more people with us who will join that family and become a part of it. And that's what, to me, the shift is all about. And so it's embodying these frequencies. The crucial thing is, how do I work with those energies now? Because those groups are around us in the field. You can feel them when you tune in. You can feel them. You might say, well, hang on a minute. How do I know if it's Arcturian or Andromedan or Pleiadian that's connecting with me? How do I know? Because you feel it. The Pleiadians, it feels like joy, it feels like unconditional love, it feels like playfulness, inquisitiveness. Right? Like a dolphin. It feels like that. To me. You know if the energy's there in the field. Arcturians are kind of quirky, metaphysical. I always think of Yoda when I think of the Arcturians. Higher vibrational, 6, 7, 8D. I'm aware that they're the creators with the Andromedans of the crop circles, who are leaving us the messages. The Andromedans work very closely with them. Metaphysical beings too, very scientific orientated. Sacred geometry, they work from sacred geometry. So the way they create reality is they're visualizing reality in sacred geometry terms. And as they visualize the sacred geometry, they're actually weaving reality just by observing it. And we have those frequencies in us to varying degrees. So these energies are with us, the Lyras, to me, very much being the spontaneity, the creative flow of the moment. They're the alchemists. That to me is the Lyran energy, or a sense of it. To me, I think of the elves in Lord of the Rings when I think of that energy. They're there too. They're here too. Now, up to this point, it's been challenging because the 4D field has been blocked down and they struggle to get in. That was one of the things when I was up in Avebury recently. They clearly conveyed to me that there's a lot of grief in some of those groups because they've been shut out, because they've lost people, souls in this reality. And the 4D layer has been shut down, but it's opening up and they're drawing closer. They're able to come in now, principally through the stargates. They're actually coming in through the stargates. And you can connect with them more strongly. These subtle vibrations that are happening, they just begin. You're sitting in meditation, or you're up on the tour, or you're in a stone circle or whatever, and suddenly some curious vibration that feels really cool. You're wondering what it is. It doesn't really matter that much. If it resonates and it feels good, let it resonate. Because it's going to bring something active in us. And that's beautiful. And a few days later, a couple of weeks later, suddenly you have this incredible awareness. And it's miraculous. And suddenly you're tuning into them all the time. And then it becomes part of your reality. So this family is with us. They're tuning in. They're willing us on. They're drawing closer during these incredible times. They're not going to spoon feed though. Why? Because that would override the first principle of the universe, which is that of sovereignty and free will. They're not going to override that. So they allow us to make up our own mind, create the space, reflect, resonate, but allow people to make up their own mind. That's why they're not spoon feeding. That's why they're not manifesting in this room right now, although they are to some degree. Right? It's for us to embody and make up our own mind about it. But that is what I share tonight, is the potential of what we're coming to, what's on offer, what the shift is really all about. Not to be distracted by what the shadow state is going on. Notice the boulders, but focus on the path between them. How does your soul speak to you? How does it inform you in any given moment? In your relationships, how you work, in the day-to-day, how does it inform you? And if you don't know, then sit until you do, because it's natural. It'll come when we're not being distracted. Let it speak to you. Let it guide you. Because that out there now, that's bankrupt, right? We can't rely on that anymore. You could kind of fool yourself a few years back that you could. You cannot rely on that. They do not have your interests at heart. They're going to take it the way they want to take it. And if they want to go off-world, let them go off-world. I say the journey is here into higher dimensions, reclaiming this beautiful planet along with Gaia and as a part of the solar system and this galaxy. I know in my heart that is happening. And nothing is going to stop it. No one is going to stop it. The only question is, will you be with it? Who will be with it? That's the only question. That, to me, is what's happening. That, to me, is what's unfolding. And that's what I feel given to share. That's what I've been sharing since the car crash. People wouldn't listen to me back then. They're beginning to listen a bit more now, which is nice to hear. And that's why I'm thankful for these times, because it's real, right? Let's not dance in the illusion anymore. Let's be real. That's what I want to share tonight. So thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. It's been a pleasure connecting with you all. I can feel a lot of resonances going on, and that's gonna ground a lot of energy in the days ahead. So be aware of that and what might come in and speak to you in curious signs of synchronicity and symbology, because it's all there. Thank you for coming.